that's a cool looking gun. But a lot of these guns look cool. Just a cool looking gun is not what you need to know when you go to purchase your first firearm. So today we're talking to new shooters about the 5 things they do need to know before they go purchase their first firearm so they make sure they make a good purchase. I'm Matt with Sheepdog Response, and today we're gonna talk about those 5 things, kind of give you a little power so when you go to the gun counter, you can make a great purchase, you get a weapon that you love to own, you love to train with, and heck, it could be in your family, you could give it to your grandkids. If it's a good weapon system, there's no reason it shouldn't last years and years. So let's talk about the first reason. Number 1 is the intended purpose. What is the intended purpose of the gun? I like to talk about people being in the romantic phase with guns, which means the first time they walk up, purchase guns, sometimes for years after they purchase their first gun, new shooters are in what they call the romantic phase, which means they see something, it looks cool, and so they buy it. And then they wind up with a collection of guns that look cool, but don't perform the way they need them to or want them to. All right, and they just wind up reselling them or regretting the purchase. And anytime you wind up regretting the purchase, you're not gonna train with it. If you don't train with it, there's no way you're gonna be good with it. And to have a weapon and you wanna carry it for self-defense, you wanna make sure that you're good with that firearm. It's very important that you know the controls, you know the systems, and you know how to use it. So understand the intent first. What is it for? So let's look at a couple different ones. Like say for instance, the P365, that Sig Sauer's, probably one of the most popular concealed carry guns. Along with Glock, you can see these are what they often refer to as compacts or subcompact pistols. They're very small, easy to carry, great for self-defense, very easy to hide on your person if you have a license to carry or a concealed carry permit. And so you may want that. You may want something in a full size frame, something like one of these weapon systems, or even one of these systems like this. If you're gonna shoot competitively, it's fully compensated, it has all the bells and whistles. If you wanna shoot competitively, that's great. But you need to know that before you go purchase the weapon, because one weapon won't work for one thing and work for another. Sometimes they're single use. You can find multi-use weapons, but it is the purpose home defense or ranch defense if you're here in Texas. That's where a shotgun or maybe one of these rifles will do you better, even working all the way up to an AR type system. But that depends on the space and the use. So before you walk up to the gun counter, understand why it is that you want this firearm. Most people want it for self-defense, so look into weapons that are highly rated for self-defense. Do some research, find ones that are great self-defense weapons. There'll be a lot to read on the subject, so get read up on the subject. That way when you walk up to the gun counter and to make that purchase of that first firearm, you know exactly what to say or what you're looking for, model number-wise and price-wise. It's a good option. All right, this brings us to the second thing that you need to know before you go to the gun counter as a new shooter and purchase that first firearm, is you have to understand what your skill level is, right? Be an honest broker of what your skill level is. Understand that everybody started somewhere, right? Everybody was a new shooter until they started shooting, right? Once you do that, once you understand what your skill level is, you'll be much more likely to buy a firearm that's in your capability, within your capability to operate. And that's the most important thing, because if you can operate it comfortably and you understand it and you come to understand it quickly, you're gonna train with it more and you're gonna advance much more quicklier. And so it's important that you understand what is my skill level when I go in. I'm gonna show you 2 firearms. These are 2 firearms. This is the Sig Sauer P365 and this is the Staccato C2. Both fantastic firearm system. One is slightly more complicated than the other. This one is based on a 1911 platform, all right? Or it's actually what they call a 2011, a modernized 1911 platform. And it has a lot more bells and whistles and a lot more controls that you need to control. This system is very streamlined. That's probably why it's one of the most popular of the concealed carry weapons out there. It's incredibly streamlined, not a lot of controls or things to learn. So for a beginning shooter, this might be a good option. I'm not saying that the 2011 isn't a great option. These are both fantastic pistols. Just understand, when you manipulate them both, you'll get an idea of, hey, this one is a lot less complicated than this one is to fire. But if you're looking for more of a traditional pistol system to shoot, maybe this one is a better system for you. I don't know. But you have to understand what your skill level is and be willing to profess that when you walk up to the gun counter. The last thing you want to do is pretend like you've been shooting firearms your whole life and tell the professionals behind the gun counter that you know what you're talking about. It's okay to ask questions. Ask as many questions as you need. Come in as many times to try it out as many times as you need. And trust me, you're going to be much happier with that purchase than if you just impulse buy a firearm. It's important that when you purchase a firearm, that you understand that it's a big purchase, A, and it's gotta work for you, and it's gotta work for your skill level. So look into what firearms work best for new shooters. All right, let's talk about the third thing you need to know before you go to a gun counter to purchase your first firearm, and that's about comfort and fit. If I asked everybody what their first concern was when they went to the gun counter to buy their first firearm, they'd probably say comfort and fit is number one. Usually when somebody doesn't know what they're doing, the person at the gun counter presents them a firearm, they pick it up and they say, hey, it feels heavy, it feels good in my hand. But just feeling your hand can't be the sole purpose, but it is important because like I said before, if it is comfortable and you feel comfortable holding it, you're much more likely to train with it. And that is an important aspect of purchasing a firearm, is understanding like it feels good, I feel comfortable holding it, that's great. But it's not just holding it, you should be able to actuate the controls. The controls on these firearms are set up so that I can get to them with my thumb. You see that? The mag release is right here, I can reach it with my thumb. The slide lock release is here. I can reach that with my thumb. I can easily actuate and get to the trigger, all right, and work all those controls with my hand comfortably on the grip. I don't have to displace it. I don't have to move it to get to it. That's important. So it's not just how the grip feels in your hand. Make sure you can get to the controls. And here's another important aspect. Make sure you can actuate the slide. This is a semi-automatic firearm, and semi-automatic firearms have a reciprocating upper receiver. The slide up here moves back and forth as it fires. I can drop that slide using that slide catch, right? But I can easily pull it back. See how easy it was for me to pull it back? That'd be different in another person's hand. So make sure that when you try it out at the gun counter and you're feeling the weapon out, that it's not just how the grip feels or the weight feels in your hand, that you can actuate these things. Can I release the slide? Can I lock the slide successfully? Can I depress the magazine release and get the magazine out easily? Can I work the slide catch? Is it easy to push up? Is it easy to push down? And can I reach those controls with my thumb? That all goes into the comfort and fit. And I'd have to say, that's pretty top tier. That's something you really want to know. It's just that most people are just going over, hey, it feels good in my hand. Understand that there's different types of weapon systems. Some will be double stack, as this weapon is, so it's a little bit thicker grip, and some will be single stack, so it'll have a little bit thinner profile, right? So single stack will have a slightly lower capacity, so it'll have less ammo in it. But most people go for single stack because they like the feel in their hand. Either way, that's fine. Just understand what it is that you're holding and understand what the term single stack and double stack means, because the people at the gun counter are gonna say, hey, this is a double stack weapon, this is a single stack weapon, and that drives kind of the size of the grip and how they feel in your hand, sometimes the weight when they're fully loaded. So just understand those things before you go, and if you don't understand those things, just watch our videos or resource this video or come out and do some training with us and just rent a firearm. That's always a good option, is to rent first, get a feel and understand for what works and doesn't work. And then once you take one of those courses, you got a lot of buying power when you go to the counter and you understand just what it is that you need or what you're looking for. The fourth thing you need to know before you go purchase your first firearm is about caliber and recoil management. You can see that from these two barrels that they shoot two distinctly different rounds, right? This one is a 45 caliber weapon. It has a much larger aperture down there. The barrel caliber is much bigger. And it's important that I understand that, because this weapon system, if I go to shoot it, is gonna have much less recoil. This one is gonna have a lot more recoil. And so a lot of times for new shooters, recoil is something that they're apprehensive about. It's okay. Managing recoil is something that you learn to do when you go to work at the range or you go out and do training, and everybody has to deal with it, but not all weapons recoil the same. This 45 caliber is gonna have a lot more recoil in your hand. Not that you couldn't handle it, but you need to understand it. So bigger isn't always better. Sometimes as a new shooter, I recommend a much smaller caliber until you start to feel comfortable with the firearm. And once you develop some comfort with having a firearm in your hand, then you can step it up to larger weapon systems. But what you'll hear in the industry a lot is the term stopping power. There is no greater indicator of the stopping power of a firearm than your skill with it. Right? Your ability to fire that thing accurately. So the more you train with your firearm, the more accurate you'll be with your firearm, and that has much more impact on the stopping power of your weapon system than the caliber does. Now don't get me wrong, a smaller caliber may have less ballistic punch when it hits something, but it's okay. As long as you're accurate with it, you can be just as defensive with this as you can with this, but you may be more likely to shoot this and train with it, and so it might increase your accuracy, and that's an important aspect that you need to know. So bigger is not always better when it comes to caliber. Ask anybody who bought a 10 millimeter as their first firearm, and they'll tell you, wow, I shoot about a magazine out of that thing and I'm tired and I want to go home, all right? The nice thing about 9mm, 380, and some of the smaller calibers is you're gonna train with it much more often, and you're gonna save a lot of money because those rounds are significantly cheaper. As you go up in caliber in the rounds and go up in the weight of the round, they tend to cost a little bit more and they're a little bit harder to get depending on where you are. So understand that. A good 9mm is it's a great firearm. It's a great caliber. It's why most people shoot it. It's definitely the most prolific round on the face of the earth. So there's something to be said for 9mm, as long as if you're gonna carry it defensively, make sure you get good defensive ammo. And if you go to the range, shoot range ammo. That way you save a buck. Here we are. The fifth thing that you need to know before you go to gun counter and make your first firearm purchase is the reliability and the brand. I know that sounds a bit bougie, but there are brands that have been in the market for literally hundreds of years that have much, much more experience than other firearm companies in making reliable firearms that work. And I treat firearms like a life support system, especially if I carry them for self-defense. It's important that you know that that thing is gonna work. When you skin that smoke wagon, it's gonna do exactly what you want it to do. And to do that, you have to purchase a firearm that you know is from a reliable brand, a reliable manufacturer. A good litmus for this is a manufacturer that will stand behind their firearm, which means they'll guarantee it for life, and there are many companies out there. Anything that goes wrong with that weapon system, you just send it to them and they'll fix it if you maintain the warranty on it. They'll have great warranties on them. They'll last for decades. Like I said, you'll give them to your grandkids. A great firearm is a firearm that you know is from a reliable brand that will last for decades and decades and decades with a little bit of maintenance, and you can teach your grandkids how to shoot on them, your great grandkids how to shoot, and keep those firearms in the family. All right, and there are plenty of families I know that have great firearms that have been in their families for a century or more, like Remington shotguns that have been in their family for a century or more, and they love them because that's it. It's an antique and it's beautiful and it reminds them of their family. There's nothing wrong with that. So look at reliable brands, all right? Ask the person at the gun counter, the attendant that's helping you, the sales rep that's helping you, like, what is this brand? How is this brand? What is the brand's reputation? There's nothing wrong with that. If you go with top selling brands like Sig Sauer, Glock, FN, Staccato, those are all fantastic brands. They all have a great reputation, and they all have a reputation of standing behind their firearms, and that is important. You want to pick a company that stands behind their firearms, that readily gives you information about their firearms. You should go and look up the specifics of those firearms and look at the warranties, because that's going to be on you. It's going to tell you exactly what you got to do to maintain the warranty, and if you maintain the warranty, there's no reason that weapon system shouldn't last decades. You're going to make a big investment in this thing, $400, $500, $600 perhaps. That's a big investment in today's economy, and so you want to make sure that you are buyer beware and that you know that the firearm that you're buying is from a reputable brand. Okay, and those were the 5 things that you needed to know, but I'm gonna toss in a bonus for you because it's important too. This is one more bonus item that you need to know, and you need to make sure that whatever firearm you purchase meets the legal requirements for the state or the place where you live. That's also very important. You wanna make sure there are legal requirements in some different states. In some states I can buy some firearms, in other states they have to be in a certain configuration. So make sure you understand that before you go and purchase a firearm, especially if you're gonna do a private sale, you're gonna privately purchase it or purchase it at a gun show, because the onus is not on the gun counter, all right? The person behind the gun counter, they can sell you whatever firearm you want to purchase. It's up to you to know what the legal requirements are where you live. So make sure you understand what the legal requirements are, and you don't buy a firearm that's gonna get you into trouble. Remember, it's gotta work. You don't want it getting you in trouble, and you want it to keep you safe in defensive situations. All that can be achieved by following these 5+1 recommendations that we gave you here. I'm Matt Smith. This is Sheepdog Response. If you like this video content, if you don't like this video content, leave a comment down below and let us know. And let us know if there's anything that we missed. Like and subscribe if you want more content like this. It helps us continue to make this content. Thanks. Be safe and keep training. Beretta pistols, maybe not. Beretta shotguns, absolutely. Like, I learned on an M9 pistol. It's a great weapon system to learn on. If you have an M9 pistol, learn with that pistol, and then as soon as you learn, immediately go trade it in on a good pistol, or melt it down and make a boat anchor for your bass boat or something. Beretta, great shotguns, maybe not the best pistols.